And also, I think for me, I have to constantly ask myself, Amy, why do you want to do this? Is this about Amy Orrs? Or is this about Jesus? I have to check myself. Because again, remember when we back up this story that looking for man's approval, right? So is this something I want to do because I want people to say, oh, did you see Amy? She has that YouTube channel, or did you see the podcast, or did you see this? Or anything I do. I have to sometimes check myself and make myself realize, Amy, are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for Jesus? So I had started that channel before, but I didn't do much with it. But ever since our conversation, I have, been on there trying to I didn't do one yesterday or today, but trying to do something every day, right? And I know, like, last year we went to Penn State and I did something on Penn State, and I don't know, somebody made a comment and I said to myself, well, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Right away, I was like, I can't get caught up in that either. Because if I want to step out and have my face out there and I want to tell a story or I want to do a review, I have to realize that there are going to be people that are going to make comments. And they're not going to be nice. Some are going to be nice and some aren't. And I just got to move on, scroll on.
One of the things there was a podcast that I would listen to recently. It was the Jesus People podcast. Very, very awesome podcast. It delves into that guy interviews some heavy topics where he talked to people who were who turned to Christ after being in this head of a Satanist organization.
Oh wow, yeah.
Like heavy stuff like that, or involved in the occult. They turned to Christ. Christ revealed himself to them. Crazy stuff. But the guy before he started it talked about whether he would interview people who weren't well known, and somebody discouraged him from doing that because. But he said, well, if they're not already established, they're not prepared for it, for that fame. Granted, I don't have that many views on my channel, but if it were to pop off, then the people who I brought on, who are just, I've been bringing ordinary, people who I meet at my church, and ordinary in the sense of they're not used to that, dealing with that kind of fame. If say the podcast were to blow up, that's been a concern on my mind of what did he mean by that? You know what I mean? Is that something I should concern me? I don't think so right now. I think I'm fine, and the people who I bring on are fine. But it is one of those things to think about is be mindful of comments, because what you're basically doing is you can amplify goodness and you can amplify hate with the internet.
Right.
You especially hate, because people will say stuff when they're behind a screen that they don't, they don't really think about it. And we only have a very limited capacity to handle that as human beings. I mean, it's one thing to have someone tell you some things that are true or harsh about you or their observations, and you'll be stewing on that for a week.
Yeah.
It takes a week to process that, to process something one person said for some unnamed faceless stranger on the internet.
Right.
So I would just suggest don't even look at the comments if you can help it, because you're not eventually I think you see these Christian YouTubers or whatever, they'll actually have an audience where. And when you have an audience of Christians, they're generally I find you find in the comments they're generally really nice to each other and
right.
Because that's the audience,
Right.
But when you have a video like I think the Penn State one, it probably sent the video to somebody who's in sports or whatever, and wasn't the kind of person the target audience who would probably say something kind.
Right. And maybe, and when they read it, they're like, I don't really think it means anything. But, it just was me. I'm like, okay, that's the critical spirit coming out. What does that mean? Right.
Yeah.
And, you hit on a good point right there about, okay, I'm not expecting to be famous. You know what I'm saying? But you're right. You hit on that. When you put yourself out there, you have to be vulnerable. You are vulnerable to other people's opinions. And so maybe that's always why I was afraid, because I don't want to hear that. I don't want, like I said, I am my biggest critic. I don't need anybody else to be critical of me, right? And also, I think for me, I have to constantly ask myself, Amy, why do you want to do this? Is this about Amy Orrs, or is this about Jesus? I have to check myself. Because again, remember when we back up this story, that looking for man's approval, right? So is this something I want to do because I want people to say, oh, did you see Amy? She has that YouTube channel, or did you see the podcast, or did you see this? Or anything I do, I have to sometimes check myself and make myself realize, Amy, are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for Jesus? And if I'm not doing it for Jesus, then maybe I shouldn't be doing it at all, right? Because I'm doing it for all the wrong motivations for me. Sometimes that's how I feel sometimes for myself. That I just have to always check my motive. Why am I doing this? Is this because I'm still searching and wanting man's approval so bad? You know? I don't know. That's just something when you said that, like about fame or whatever, you know, it's not, I don't want to be famous. I mean, no.
Yeah.
But I want to reach people. I want to help people. And, you know, I guess people want to be, hey, I saw your podcast, or hey, I saw your YouTube video. Everybody wants that. We do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because when I'm doing those things, I'm doing it because I want to show people cute little sauce that I love, or my favorite Christmas present, or, you know, I'm going to do one on bars, or I'm helping my health coach, you know, and recommending him, and, you know, because I want to encourage people. All right, you know, share your podcast because I want to help you and encourage you too, you know, and others. But where was I going with that? Well, I'm just saying.
You want to serve people.
Yes, I want to serve people. That's one of my gifts is the acts of service. And, you know, and I think sometimes it can be overwhelming to people because I love. And when I love hard. And sometimes that's hard for people, you know, to ask my girls. I tell them, you know, all the time how much we love them, and we love our son-in-laws, and we miss our two that live in a different state. And, you know, I wish they were all here together, you know. So when I love people, I love hard. And sometimes that can be a turnoff because people think you're needy or whatever. It's not that. I generally love people. You know, when you are in this realm here, I love and love hard. And sometimes it's misconstrued sometimes, you know, as, I don't know, that I need something back. No. I just want to love you. You know, does that make sense? I don't even know if it does. These are all things, as you can see, kind of makes me emotional about.